Hi, I'm Philidor.
And I'm Clara.
And this is The Sheep Staring at Me.
A podcast on history, culture, literature,
geeky things, and life in general. And this is, I think, a second season, first episode, and we've got a guest.
Hello, I am Lovis Helen. I'm new to this show.
Well, we've talked about you several times, so
yes.
I did hear that because I listened to your show, and I did appreciate the shout out.
Yes, we're fraternizing with a fan.
Oh dear. So
and don't you read your comments?
Well, so we actually do have a topic today, not just a guest. And Clara, what is our topic?
Our topic is the Elizabethan Age.
Ooh. Yeah.
You said that so surprised, as if we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, as though we hadn't discussed this, and Lovis wasn't actually the person who's at fault for this topic.
I wouldn't say at fault.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And I was kind of expressing the probable feeling of our future listeners.
Okay, so we usually have like topics, questions, or stuff like that, but we don't. We're all just winging it, I think.
Terribly unprepared.
Oh, I mean, I always am. But so firstly, for those who don't know, the Elizabethan era, is called that because Elizabeth I was Queen of England. And and that was, I think, from 1558 to 1603, if I've got that right.
Yes, you do.
Okay, I've got that right.
If you haven't got a post-it note next to me that says that.
I mean, I'm reading this off Google, so I should get it right.
I mean, Google doesn't know everything, but it tends to know most things.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's the era we're talking about, basically. And also Shakespeare was, writing stuff, and which is, I think, one of the reasons we find it so very interesting.
Indeed.
Because we can ramble about Shakespeare again.
Woo-hoo.
Indeed.
Yeah, so yeah.
How does that rambling usually start?
I have no idea. It just sort of happened. Anyway, Clara, do you have any idea where to start?
Not particularly, no. I just wanted to give you a fair warning. You have to stop me if I talk about Shakespeare's tragedies, because
you realize that you have to stop me as well.
Yeah, Lovis, you have a grave responsibility, because
I feel like I shouldn't stop you, but I should maybe let you take turns.
Well, maybe for, reasons of clarity and definitions, no tragedies today, because that's technically not Elizabethan anymore.
Oh, dear.
Very strictly speaking, not Elizabethan, because that was good old James.
Yes.
Yeah, but
it's something I drove my English teacher. But I don't know actually if it drove her nuts, but I did used to be like a stickler about this point in class.
I mean, but also you could argue that the Elizabethan values were still there, because the Elizabethan age was, I don't know how long, 58 to 03. And James was on the throne far shorter than Elizabeth. So you could argue that the Elizabethan values endured for far longer than just her reign.
Also, I maybe one should make the distinction between, era and reign. If you say Elizabethan era, you mean this whole big thing, and if you say reign, then obviously it stops when she dies.
Yeah, but Elizabethan era, I think that's more complicated as well, because there's probably people who were already, whatever peaked when she was queen was somewhat there before sometimes, and some, and then endured, and basically Also the worldview, we say it's the Elizabethan worldview, but
She
that
didn't
was there
invent it.
before. Like,
Yeah. You
So
could
why
argue
do
that
you
you should
call
call
it
it a late Tudor era.
yeah,
But it really doesn't encompass that were these decades of change and progress and a whole set of values,
yeah,
because it also encompasses Mary, her sister, who went before her. But we're not going to talk about Mary.
I mean, no, I was just going to say that I think the big deal about the Elizabethan era is that after, Henry VIII, then which Edward was it?
6.
Edward VI, and then Mary. It was, it was a lot of change all the bloody time, and there was always uncertainty. And then there was good Queen Liz the first.
Yeah,
And
I think the main point is that she lived for a long time, and that kind of is a certain stability. So that kind of, I don't know, when she enacted a policy that, had time to really come into its own in a way, for which shorter reigns just didn't have time.
And she manifested the Anglican Church, did she not? I mean,
Yeah.
Charles, what am I saying? Henry VIII was the one who broke off from the Catholic Church, but she was the one who manifested that. And this has to do with what you said, with a simply longer reign. Mm-hmm. She reigned for decades, and in the comparatively short time in which her younger brother Edward reigned and her sister Mary, they couldn't accomplish a feat like that. I mean, Mary wouldn't have established the Anglican Church because she was Catholic.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, and also just, they were so preoccupied with establishing their reign and, trying to, if real or imaginary, kind of defeat all their enemies, and
Queen Elizabeth was one.
Yes, indeed. They really didn't have time for much else. So so that's basically, I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Look at politics today, if like we have elections every 4 years, and basically in theory only 1 year of those is good for getting stuff done. It's right after the election, because the next 3 years you're going to worry about losing potential voters by things you do. So.
Yeah, well, but then again, it could be argued that modern politicians and people in power wouldn't have to establish the Virgin Queen image that much.
Well, depends, doesn't it? I mean, image is important, though. Do you really think that they are who they seem to be on camera?
I mean,
I hope not for them.
I also think it's kind of stupid to assume that anyone is who they show, because I think that's we show a certain image of ourselves, especially on the internet, and
authentic. Trying to be authentic.
I mean,
doesn't it say it all? I'm trying to be authentic.
Exactly, we're trying to be authentic or whatever, but there's certain sides of us that will never make the internet.
Oh,
and that's good.
Nobody would want those.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if maybe the person I am when I'm at uni or something isn't nicer than the person I am when I'm at home. I don't know that.
I think I'm much nicer in public than I'm at home, to be honest, because I have to be. I don't know. I mean, I think it's got something to do with your place in your surroundings. I don't want to say society because I'm sorry, sometimes I stutter. Because I mean, home isn't really society. Yeah, we do have like everybody has their role to play as well, but it's different because your parents are your parents whether they like you or not, and nothing can change that. So you're in a way much freer to be yourself, your badly tempered, ugly self at home, than you are in society, because they can just say, no, I don't want to have anything to do with you. So you're kind of more careful to be your best self when you're in that situation, I think.
Yeah. But I think probably in Elizabethan times, to come back to that, you would always have to be your best self, because society was more closely knit, I think. I can't talk either, but I don't have a stutter. Yeah.
What do you think? You've been quiet for a while.
I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm showing my best self here.
Oh dear.
Very well done.
No, I just thought that what you said about, well, both of you, about sort of, I'm paraphrasing you here, manifesting our place in society and home. So manifesting our place in basically all roles we have to inhabit. First of all, playing roles. I'm a bit disappointed that no one of you said that all the world's a stage and all the men and women really players.
We were waiting for you.
It is, I mean, we study theatre studies, so I don't know. I think you become wary after a time, maybe after 1-2 years, you become wary of boring people with Shakespeare quotes, and
I consider myself insulted.
And other and other quotes. So you not being a student of theatre studies, you're probably freer in the way that you approach this.
Talking about inhabiting roles, yeah.
Indeed.
And number two, I mean, manifesting a role and keeping it secure, it's just what the regents had to do. Manifesting their reign, keeping it secure. And I suppose Elizabeth had, well, one decisive disadvantage, if you looked at it from the beginning. She was a woman.
Yeah. And she wasn't married, which, I mean, her sister, who ruled before her, was.
Didn't do her much good.
I mean, didn't do her much good, but she did get married. And I don't know, I kind of have a feeling that people tend to forget the fact that both Mary Tudor and Mary Queen of Scots were married.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but I didn't think of that. I kind of just thought, I mean, when I was like 15, 16, I just thought, this is this reign where there's 3 independent women. And yes, they were, but 2 of them were married.
So
and didn't Elizabeth say that she had a heart of a man?
Yeah.
Would have to. She has the job of a man. Well, at the time it was. I mean, and it still is mainly. Yeah. I mean, look at how many kings there are, and only a handful of queens we remember. I mean, there were more, obviously, but it is kind of.
Yeah, but also like kings, they would always get themselves killed, wouldn't they? Like especially British kings, they had such a habit of getting themselves killed.
I don't think that has something to do with gender, though.
No, that just has something to do with stupidity, I think. But I don't know if that has to do with gender.
Trying to war and trying to raise taxes for protecting the coasts from landlocked counties. Charles.
Was there ever a woman queen who kind of started?
A woman queen instead of a male queen.
I'm sorry. Was there ever a queen? Well, you never know nowadays. But was there ever a queen that started a crusade?
I think there was, yeah.
I'm really wondering. I don't know.
I think there was, but I can't for the love of goodness or whatever.
But Arc is not a queen, and that
No, Joan of Arc isn't a queen. Of course she isn't. But I know there was at least one who did that, but I don't know. I don't remember who and when. I genuinely, I just know there was something.
Good. I'll have to research that.
But something else that just came to my mind especially when you mentioned theatre studies, because I have a feeling that in theatre studies, most people are either weird or not straight or whatever. Like it's a mass of weirdos.
It's weird then.
Yeah, anyway, no, but I do have a feeling that it's much easier in a theatre and in a theatrical environment to be who you are, whoever you are.
Or
And
who you
for me-
choose to be, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because lots of people, you know, they put a lot of effort into that persona. And I do call it persona because I don't know. Where does that start? Where does who you are begin is the end, and where your persona start? I don't know. I don't know.
But where I wanted to actually go with this is because you know, I've been identifying as gender fluid for about a year now, and in theatre studies, I feel like I can just say, yeah, I'm gender fluid, it's fine, and I just am, and they don't question it.
Mm-hmm.
And that can once again bring us back to Shakespeare, because this, you know, the changing the gender or the changing how you seem is like a big deal in a lot of plays, I think.
Yeah.
You know, as you like it, and where also all the world's a stage shows up.
Yeah.
And I mean, just, you know, not even going to those specific plays, all actors were men, so all women were played by men.
So it was a double
and then having a man who plays a woman play a man. I mean, it's fun.
But didn't a gentleman who came to our school and who was, I think, at some point the head of the Globe Theatre, didn't he also say it was men with beards who played women, and then they pretended to be men again who pretended to be women?
I think they did.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, yeah, but they would put on. I mean, if you pretend to be a man, you put on a beard.
Indeed.
Or wouldn't you?
But that's my point. You would shave it off when you pretend to be a woman.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not disputing the right of every woman to wear a beard to go into I don't know,
a forest. In that case, a forest.
No, I meant Monty Python, but good.
Okay.
You know, with what's her name?
Oh, the stoning. Life of Brian.
No, not the stoning. Him.
Each their own.
Her right to have a baby, even though she hasn't.
Oh yeah.
Uterus.
But
she has the right to have babies.
But that's still Life of Brian, though. So.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's Monty Python, definitely. I just remember the character. Loretta, there we go.
Loretta, yeah.
Loretta. Good old Loretta.
Yeah.
How did we end up there? Didn't we want to talk about the Elizabethans?
Because everything has to do with Elizabethans.
Indeed. Doing a deep dive here.
Well. Oh God, I can't breathe anymore.
That's bad.
Yeah, but that's laughing.
I think the definition of laughing you'll find in a dictionary. Can't breathe.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna ask Clara, can you tell us something about Elizabethan poetry?
No. There's a short answer to that.
Are you sure?
You know that Shakespeare was a poet too.
and I know there was, what was he called? Johnson. Ben Jonson. I have to tell this fun story. I think you both know it. But in English class a couple of years ago, when I was still at school, so a good couple of years ago. Our English teacher asked if we knew who the mayor of London was. At that time, it was Boris Johnson. And I don't know what film I got stuck in my head. I raised my hand and proclaimed loudly, Ben Johnson. She paused for a moment, looked at me and said, that was a playwright. It's Boris.
Well, Ben is a much more English name than Boris, I have to say.
I just knew it was something like
also,
Ben Johnson.
But also, dear old Boris wasn't even born in England.
Yeah.
Where was he born?
America.
What?
Yeah.
He doesn't only... What?
I know.
I didn't know that.
He could have become an
I didn't
American
either,
citizen
and then I
then,
lost.
couldn't he?
Huh? What?
He could have become an American citizen then,
I
couldn't
mean, if he was born there, isn't he a naturalized American
he?
citizen?
Isn't that the whole American thing?
Isn't
Yeah,
that...
but you can only be you can only be American president if you've lived there for 14 years, have been born there,
Yeah.
and are a man over 40 usually.
Is that
I
it?
mean-
I always thought I always thought you had have been born there and,
Yeah.
be over, I don't know, 39.
Yeah, you have to
But I
have to
didn't
be
know that you
born
have
there.
to live there. I didn't know that. That's new.
Yes,
to
you do. You have
Makes
to be
sense.
born there, live there for 14 years, and be like over 40 ideally.
It makes sense. You should know the country you're going to be the head of.
Yeah. You should-
I agree.
But
But
also-
the born part, though, I don't agree that you should have to be born there. I mean,
So
Well, with the good old primogeniture in Great Britain, you don't have that problem. You can have lived your whole life in France as long as you're the firstborn male, at least back then, male. Yeah.
still kind of
also
nice.
Clara, you can tell us about Elizabethan poets. John Donne,
Oh, that one.
Spenser,
Yeah.
I vaguely remember an exam.
Milton.
Something lurks at the edge of our subconscious.
Was it that traumatic that did you have to push it away that far?
I suppose.
I don't remember.
No, when I read about poetry, I just sort of forget the eras they're in, you know.
Oh
Not
no.
the era themselves, but when I talk about poetry, I think about years. And when I talk about an era, I think of the regions. And I know it's the same era, but it's not the same synapse that links them.
Yeah, but you know, I know that, you know, most of the metaphysicals wrote the metaphysical stuff after Elizabeth was gone, I think, but that doesn't mean that they only started to write it then.
Yeah,
like,
but the later ones were more focused. So yeah, to anyone who wants to hear the two of us talk about Elizabethans and romantic poets, there's an episode of that.
Yeah,
it was a good one. I don't remember
everything that I've forgotten by now.
Yeah, I don't remember anything either. I mean, I remember that I basically talked about Keats for half an hour, but I can do that again. I could talk about Keats.
Don't. That was a hard bit to listen to, but that's just because I don't particularly love Keats.
No, I have to say I agreed to some extent because his writing sometimes was a bit but Keats as a character and as a person in history, that's really someone I really would love to have met or meet or something. I don't know. He seems to be very much like me in a way.
Gender fluid, you mean?
No, not gender fluid, but melancholic and weird.
I was joking.
And also the older sibling.
You're the oldest sibling, Jeff?
No, I mean, I am an older sibling, and I think Keats was an older sibling. He also had an older brother, but he also had a younger brother.
I cannot relate to this. I'm the youngest. Always been. Probably will remain.
I mean,
Yes. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd
Back
like
to
to
the
meet a poet from
Elizabethan.
the Elizabethan times, someone who's not Shakespeare, to just see how the focus was back then. If, because nowadays you think Elizabethan age and you immediately think Shakespeare. When someone says Elizabethan age, you almost think of Shakespeare faster than of Elizabeth.
But you know why? It's the way school taught that era.
Yeah. And that's why I would like to meet someone who's not Shakespeare, to see how the view of Shakespeare is at that time, because he was already known, but probably not as much as today. And other people were known too, because in the course of history, there always happens more than we remember. And sometimes I ask myself, what of all the musicians, artists we know today, how much of that will be known in 500 years? And so I have to assume that a large portion of people who did work back then, who published poems, maybe even wrote plays, that their work is completely lost, that those people vanished. So I would like to meet one of those.
I mean, I would really like to meet Marlowe, I think, because we talk about Marlowe as well.
Wasn't that the one with the, was this the face that launched 1,000 ships and burned the towers of Ilium? Is it Ilium or Ilium?
I have no bloody clue.
Thank you.
I think. I could be wrong.
But it's also the guy who wrote Dr. Faustus, which paved the way for Goethe. So.
It's also the guy who got stabbed.
Yeah, I mean, he also got stabbed. Kid Marlowe.
A lot of guys got stabbed. I know one who got stabbed 23 or 26 times.
That is precisely why it is not allowed to wear rapiers anymore. And Americans should really think about this, because the number of stabbings really went down after that. And
so the thing is, I don't know, several comedians, especially British ones, have said in the last few years that Americans they aren't stupider than Brits. There's just more of them, and what they do in extremes. So they have the smartest people on the planet, and they have the stupidest people on the planet. They probably also have the most peaceful people on the planet, and the stabbiest or shootiest.
Well, I have to correct myself a little bit. Knife crime is a problem in the United Kingdom, but
yeah, I remember.
I mean, not just in the United Kingdom. We've had, like, I don't know, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago or something. It wasn't a knife. It was a sword. But there was a guy in the city Clara and I both live in, who attacked police officers with a katana. I don't know, a Japanese sword. And they shot him because they didn't know what to do. And I mean, they
shot him in Germany.
Yeah.
They shot somebody. Like in the leg or something?
I don't know. They just reacted because the guy was obviously mental and he had a sword.
Yeah, I do get the impulse to shoot the man with the sword, but it's still, it's very, I don't know. It's very removed. I mean, I only a while ago in was it Russia or Ukraine? I don't remember. Somebody shot people with a crossbow.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I was listening to that. My friends that are there from there, and then they were telling me about this, and I was listening. I was like, that sounds weird. Europe, this side of the pond, people being shot. it sounds weird. I mean, you kind of expect it from the other side, but you're not even surprised anymore. But this surprised me.
I mean, I follow I think CNN and BBC News on Twitter or something, and BBC News almost never says anything. Like, there's no push stuff. There's usually just, hey, so and so died. But America, it's like so many people got shot today, every day.
Yeah.
Are you? Do you want to say something? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, for everyone who's listening to this, I'm holding up 2 fingers because I need to remember thoughts, 2 of them.
Okay,
I
then
was
do say
waiting
the
for the
thought.
explanation. We're talking
Nothing
about
to do with
guns.
the shooting, I just said fun facts. What did you say?
I said we're talking about guns, and you're just holding up.
Yeah, I'm holding up the thumb and forefinger, so yeah.
Very British, very, very German way of counting.
Indeed.
Yeah.
If you were a spy in Britain, they would have gotten you.
Yeah. Well, I should just talk to people in British and not gesticulate.
Okay, you should just talk now because you have points to say.
Yes, fun facts. This has nothing to do with shootings or rapiers or swords. More like cleavers and knives. Because fun facts. 1, do you know what was named after Queen Elizabeth? That has nothing to do with the cleavers. That comes later. And there were probably a lot of people named after Elizabeth, not people, but
can you narrow it down a bit?
Places people travel to. New World.
Is there some place called Elizabethtown or something?
No.
No.
Okay,
I
just
don't
say
know.
it.
I'm saying no, but there probably is. No, Virginia.
I knew that. I even knew that. Why did I?
Of course.
I learned that
Oh.
somewhere. I don't know where.
Yes. Fun fact. Virginia was named after the Virgin Queen.
Virgin Queen, yes.
I mean, makes sense.
But just imagine, I mean, is that the biggest compliment because you've perfected your persona, or is it an insult? Just imagine you solidify this image of the Virgin Queen, but people then name a new colony not after you and using your name, but your persona or one aspect of your persona. It is sort of a compliment, but also
Yeah.
I would say, because I mean, she thought this up for herself, and she, propagated this image. So I guess it's a compliment. But then again, going back to Monty Python, and I mean, why not Life of Brian? When you remember the scene where they're all in front of Brian's mum's house and want to see Brian, and she's not letting them see him, and because she's being so difficult, let's put it like that, the question arises, are you a virgin? And she's offended, obviously, and I don't think she answers straight away. Again, men playing women, there we go. Next.
I mean, it's also one of the men who was a medievist.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes. So much to unwrap there, but and after her, continuously being difficult, the crowd concludes among themselves, definitely a virgin. So it doesn't have to be a compliment. That is what I want to say, long-windedly.
Indeed. And there was nothing more to that fun fact. I just wanted to share that. And
okay.
You still
What's
have
the
to sum
second
up,
fun
so
fact?
yeah, I have one thought left.
Yeah, so say it.
Let's talk about food. Did you know that, do you like fish, by the way?
very
No.
One yes, one no.
raw and cooked. I love it in all its consistencies.
I
Yes,
don't.
you don't eat it Gollum style, but you eat it.
I would try.
I mean, I like fish and chips, but that's where it ends.
Fish fingers? Fish fingers?
Nah. Had plastic in those ones.
Just guts anyways.
Yeah.
Not my thing.
So did you know that Queen Elizabeth made a law in 1563 that on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, everyone needed to eat fish?
That is, I believe that is religious, because I don't know if you know that, but I'm an Orthodox Christian.
I know that you're an Orthodox Christian.
I was talking
I
to
know that too.
I
listeners.
know.
Oh dear.
Listeners don't know. Dear listeners.
I need.
And we abstain from eating anything that had a pulse, basically, on Wednesdays, Fridays. Yeah, on Wednesdays and Fridays, basically. So some people include Saturday because it's before Sunday. But that's
Yeah, but that's also something my my grandfather would do, and he was a Polish Protestant. So
I think it's just a Christian thing, maybe.
I think, yeah, but also that's the reason, you know, because they said you have to eat something that is basically a fish, and that's the reason why people in the early colonies would then eat puffins, because and around here they would eat duck because they couldn't always eat fish, and not always and everyone could get fish, and you did need to eat. So they were like, well, let's eat ducks and puffins.
Well, I'd actually, I would be interesting now what the what the rules on that were before her, because if it's mentioned, she obviously changed something, because we actually don't eat fish. That is something that most people here are either Catholic or Protestant, as we know, living in Germany. But so most people who through find out that I kind of have mini Lent on Wednesdays and Fridays, they think, oh, so you can eat fish then? And I'm like, no, we don't eat meat, we don't eat fish on that day. It's like, no, fish are also a no. So that's a difference that I always found interesting. I know why the 2 days, but I don't know why we don't eat fish and Catholics, for example, do eat fish but no meat. So that is interesting. But
I don't know. I think usually it's the regions where people come from, because I know that there is in the Islam there is people who don't eat pork.
That's all of them. That's not just people.
Yeah. No, I mean, huh?
Yeah, but that's every
no, it isn't
Muslim person.
No, there is people who are Muslim who do eat pork, but they don't eat duck, for example. And it always depends. And that's a similar thing because they come from a different region usually. And it's a slightly different faith from a different region. And I think it's probably also a regional thing.
Interesting. That is interesting.
That's just a theory, though. So I don't know. Anyway,
Elizabethans, it was partly regional because it was at least partly made to support the fishing industry. And guess what? If you disobeyed the law and you were caught, guess what happens? How many months in jail?
Only months in jail? I thought you got something cut off or something.
No, they were pretty lenient.
Like a finger or something. So you would know if somebody had that little finger missing, you would know what they had done.
No, but also the thing is, never mind how long you spent in jail in the Elizabethan era. I think in the Elizabethan era, it was still normal that if you went to jail, so to prison, that you then had to pay for prison. And thus a lot of people who didn't have money, obviously, so a lot of people of no rank or anything would end up in prison for something very minor. And then they would have to pay for their shackles, to pay for their food, pay for the cell, pay for everything. And then they would end up in debtor's prison. So
could they keep the shackles afterwards if they paid for them?
No, it was like a rent. It's something that Californian prisons tried again, and I don't know if they're still doing it. It's a stupid thing, but
yeah, I agree. So what? I mean, I don't know. A week in the stocks. What did they get?
3 months. A quarter year.
Is that what fish is worth? Interesting.
I mean, the fishing industry, we're talking about it as though the fishing industry was a topic that isn't discussed anymore. But oh my God, Brexit fishing industry discussions.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
we're talking about an island here.
Yeah.
It doesn't have large plains of buffaloes passing through as the Americas still had at that point, because people were still to arrive in masses. It's bison, isn't it? Buffalo is the... I always get confused.
It's bison.
Yeah,
No idea.
I don't know why I want to say buffalo.
Because
Maybe
it's
I'm gonna blame
Buffalo
Karl
Bill.
Heinz.
It's just in the forefront of our minds.
I think I read buffalo, but that might be a case of Mandela effect. I think I read buffalo or buffel in Karl May.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just a way of translating, because
But in Karl May, they did say buffel, but they also said bison at times. So I think he didn't really make a distinction there.
I mean, we're talking about a guy who never was in America, so let's go back to Elizabethan England.
Yeah.
Well, not when he wrote those stories, not before.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah,
So they
Yeah.
they have they have little other option than to go into fishing.
fishing, and I mean, you probably have game too. So a couple of stags, those. I mean, later they constructed this whole culture about going out to shoot animals.
I just thought, wait a second. They went out to shoot fish?
I mean, don't they say shoot is as easy as shooting fish in a barrel? Someone
Oh, dear.
could have tried at some point.
I wonder if
I
they had
somehow-
whaling back then.
Whaling
Wait.
was a big thing, I think.
Yeah.
Already in
Yeah.
Was it?
And you know, whaling, I think, was in that moment a thing when people went across the big oceans. Like once they didn't really, you know, not the Vikings yet, but you know, everyone pretty much after that, when they took, you know, were able to take fishing boats away and would be able to stay away for a while. And you know, in the Elizabethan era, there was a lot of piracy and a lot of people living on boats, and the navy was a big deal, a big fucking deal.
Mhm.
The fucking had to be in here, because otherwise I won't have to make it explicit here.
Yeah, I noticed that.
No, but
This moment of this episode needs to be rated explicitly because she said the F word.
Right.
That is not Fitzgerald.
So far, might crop up again. But yeah, I mean, what did they use for oil lamps before they had the whales?
I think they didn't really do oil lamps before they had the whales.
They had just had candles.
I mean, they also they did have whales, but they didn't have the whales. Sorry.
You mean before they killed the whales for their oil?
I think actually that they did that around that time already. I'm not sure though, but I mean,
And technically they didn't have the whales. To quote someone, they are not the hell your whales.
Indeed.
No,
Fair
but it's a reference. Yes.
Yes, I got it. Have you
yeah.
noticed? I got it. I'm so proud when I get Star Trek reference.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. I think we should try and
Yes, stay on.
slowly wrap up, because
Oh, yes, all that.
So we are at 45 minutes now. Or a
Yeah.
little over, but
so we shouldn't slowly wrap up. We should wrap up.
we should end this with a canon thingy. But
Yeah.
not the way that one Shakespeare play ended, but that was later.
I would.
When the globe burned down because
Yeah.
of the cannon and thatched roofs.
We neither have a globe, nor do we have thatched roofs, nor do we have a cannon, any of us, really. So
Are you sure?
pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
haven't-
Yeah.
I haven't
I
checked.
know I know my mum somewhere. I think she has like a toy cannon, but it doesn't work.
There we are.
I'm not sure, but I think so. Anyway,
Dear listeners,
yeah.
I would, on behalf of all of us, I would like to apologize for us not talking about the Elizabethans very much.
I mean,
It's kind of misleading, the title of this.
I mean, in the last episode, we were supposed to talk about Halloween, but we then talked about Shakespeare. This time we were supposed to talk about Shakespeare and we didn't.
We
So,
did.
We did, but not that much.
Seriously.
Okay, so Clara, you wanted to use a reference and wrap it up.
I don't know which reference I wanted to use.
Bloody useless.
You mean the one I always do? The same procedures every time? Not that reference, the one I reference with that reference.
Now I'm
so
confused.
Is this the part where I say hailing frequencies closed?
Ah, okay. You never do. But
I do.
you do?
Yes, I
I
do.
don't remember. That
Oh, yes, because you don't listen to me.
I
Okay.
see a theme developing.
okay.
So which reference were you referencing that I should reference?
I don't bloody well know what reference I was referencing. I'm referencing myself now and saying, okay, I think we're wrapping this up. Thanks to Lovis for being here.
Thanks
I hope we
for
didn't
having
scare
me.
you off.
I had fun. I hope it's not too boring for those listening.
If there is anybody listening. If there is people
Shouting out into the void.
Is there anybody?
please do leave a sign. Okay, yeah.
I was very honored to be here, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess until next time.
Until then, and hailing frequencies closed.